Hi, this is Ron Janish, and this video will show you some really cool stuff. This is about something called babson reversal lines, or Andrews reversal point, whatever you want to call it. This is really, really cool. Now, a couple things about this. There are certain things that you absolutely need to do. A, you need to look at daily pivots, and then you need to look at weekly charts. And those two together will bring you to that point. Let me give you an example. Here, remember Andrew said that what happens just before a significant major pivot or reversal or something like that is you often will see an EP. Okay, if I cough or something, sorry guys, but I'm under the weather. I feel like I have one coming on. So here you look at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Notice you can draw the 1, 3, 2p line, and you can draw the 2, 4, 2p line, and they're both headed in the opposite direction. That is an EP. You can use min 0 EPs, min 1s, whatever works. Actually, if you use daily, they all should pretty well work with this. Okay. When you have a reversal point, you will find that prices will go the other way typically for several weeks. Excuse me, here we go. So what you do is you first of all find your EP on the daily, and then find 2 pivots, or find 3 pivots actually, on the weekly chart. Okay, so you're looking at 2 different charts. So here, for example, is a weekly chart. And if you ignore all these lines except for this red one here, notice this is a weekly chart. So you take a low pivot here, a low pivot, and prices briefly went through the bottom here and then reversed. Okay, now this is a weekly chart, so what you had was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you have something on a week, when you have an EP also on the weekly chart, in addition to the daily, you may find that you get an extended move, something that lasts for several weeks, maybe several months. Excuse me, here we go. Okay, God, man, I don't know where I caught this. Maybe up in Canada. So, okay, let's look at another example. Okay, here's the wheat, for example. Now, in the wheat, we can see here that we have an R2P. This is a weekly chart, and let's take a look at the daily. And here's your daily chart. There we go. Notice the 2-4 line is downsloping, and the 1-3 line is upsloping. Now you're going to look at this and say, but I'm not so sure those are pivots. And you're right to say that. You need to look at the data to see if you have the higher high and stuff. Sometimes it's by one tiny tick, but you'll have it. So this is your example in the wheat, for example. Okay, now something else. I'm going to show you more and more examples of this. Something else about this. What people do is they'll take a system and they'll modify it. I don't want you to modify this. I want you to leave this part alone, the part I'm going to show you. I'll give you something you can modify, you can tweak and tune to your own perfection and your own comfort level. Okay? So leave this part alone. Don't mess with it. What you're looking for, here's your R2P. Okay, and in here is your 2-4 and 3-4. I typically label the 3-4. So here you have your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now understand with EPs between the 4 and that final pivot, you can have a whole lot of pivots. That happens. So don't imagine that every time you have to have just a straight or something like that with no pivots in between. Doesn't happen. So in other words, this one here, this has gone up, But until we know for sure, which this is a daily chart, which will take another day or two, this could actually still go down. Okay. Now, I used to do something that was really horrible for my blood pressure, and that was to just put my order in there right near that line. Okay. Or I'd even go, gee, I'd take some kind of a chart and let's let it bounce, and then after it made a higher high on some intraday bar, I'd use that, and that's okay. That's a valid entry. I don't do that anymore. Now what I do is I let it go up a bit, and then I let it come back, and hopefully I'll catch it. Okay, on a correction. Here's another one. Okay, so what is this one here? Okay, that's Australian dollar. Here's coffee. Okay, so here's our, is this a weekly chart? Oh, this is a daily chart. See the D over here? That's a daily. Okay, so we have a daily chart and we have our 5, 4, 3, and then if you look at it, 2, 1. So if you drew a line here and drew a line there, you'd get it, right? So, and this is your weekly 2P line. And let's see what we have. Oh, what happened was prices today went back down to that line. They made a tick or two lower low. Yeah, here it is. Here's coffee. Okay, so in this case, your 2P line kind of looked like this. Pivot, pivot was reverse 2P. It's just, you take this point here and you find two pivots that absolutely beautifully connect, like here and here. Okay. So, what is this? GCM7 Gold Comics. That was a good one. So right here, this is our weekly chart. Okay, notice on the weekly we also had that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and in here, and these were also our daily pivots. So we had a nice EP on the daily and on the weekly. And this here, we took this high here, and boom, prices peaked through it a little bit and reversed. And this was our high, which lasted for quite some time, back in April, May. And if you're with us in the group, you may recall I called this high here, this top, so perfectly, so beautifully. Gee, well, how did I do that? Well, now you know. Okay, so what happens is when you get a system, you usually want to modify it or this and that. Okay, and that's fine. Here we go. Same chart. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is the daily. The other one was the weekly. See how prices came nicely in here? Okay, and then boom. Okay, it was what you might call a, a really nice V top. It just tested it temporarily for a day or two and then went down. But so what you're gonna do, you contribute to this is after you have this incredible entry, you are going to contribute. What are you going to use for an entry, and what are you going to use for an exit? This way, you get to make it your own, and you get to make it your own, and you get to modify it so that it's a way that's comfortable for you. Okay. Here you go. Here's your daily. Here's your weekly. Here's your W. Okay. So here you have your W2P line. Okay, and I've got the 3 4s in there, kind of squished in. Let's take a look at it on the daily. And here we go. 5. Notice there's a bunch of pivots in there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Remember, with the 5 has to be higher than the 3. Okay, so here's your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And notice had you drawn a line from the 2 to 4, downsloping, 1, 3, 5 is upsloping. Okay, and this is a very recent sugar chart. These charts are fairly recent. There's only 1 or 2 that are kind of ancient, like that gold one I showed you. Okay, what is this one? Canadian dollar. Okay. Oh, here comes a cough. Hold on. Okay. Right here. Notice you have a low pivot on the weekly and a high pivot on the weekly, and there's your high. Okay. Remember a few weeks ago before I went on vacation, I said, and went up north and stuff. I said, hey, I did that seminar. Well, I said Canada or something in the emails. Well, this was, around where I said, hey, time to go down. And let's take a look at our next chart. What do we have? This is the Canadian dollar, same chart, only here's the daily. So here you have your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Before you trade this, and when you're trading it, remember, before you trade it, find lots of examples. Just take them, copy paste them to some kind of Word file. Okay, lots and lots of examples. Okay, if you want somebody to criticize them, send them to me, send them to Matt. I'll tell you if you're on track or if you're off track. Okay, and being off track is not unusual, by the way. It's really easy to make creative mistakes. Because the idea is to find ones that fit the criteria with the 1, 3, 5 and the 2, 4 in the opposite directions, not ones that, oh gee, these kind of feel good and look good, Okay, so here you go. Here's your reversal. Boom, down we go. All right, that's your Canadian dollar. Let's move on to what is this? This is cattle. Cattle. So here is your weekly. Boom, boom, boom. And let's take a look. Okay, so here we go. See, you had a couple of pivots in between the ultimate low. So here you have your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, on your daily. So you have your up slanted and your down slanted. And away you go for several weeks. When this guy finally turns, and this guy finally turned at a weekly 2P line. Why did I take a weekly 2P or weekly R2P or whatever? If you remember, what Andrew said was that whipsaws or reversals occur at these lines. Take a look through your written material. It's in there. One of them is the what is it? Measures studies of nets or something. Now, I don't have examples of charts in this of stocks in this thing here, but I can tell you that stocks work wonderfully. And remember, you need to use weekly lines for your reversal line and daily pivots for looking for the thing. Oh, what did I do? No, on stocks, I think I did it differently. I used the weekly lines, but I used weekly counts. So I'd count the pivots, and I'd look for pivots that had weekly whatever. Let's see if I can find you some examples. As I'm here, what the hell? Yeah. Well, here's the indices work both ways, but here's a nice one. That's your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And so what you might do is look around for a pivot, then another pivot. Let's see. We already went past that one, so we know it's not that one. And we have to find a weekly. Let's find the weeklies. This stuff is tricky, so please practice it before you start. Okay? So we may have hit the top today. Is it possible? Absolutely possible. Is it definite? No, it's not definite yet. I like to wait. So anyway, in stocks, look for weekly pivots. Stick with weekly only, please, in stocks. Okay. In futures, you combine daily and weekly. But in stocks, I look for weekly only. And um, here's a nice example. Let's see if this guy hit. Actually, what am I doing? This is your weekly line. So it went real nicely here, okay? But let's see if there's another one. Yeah, that one's real pretty. Boom, boom, boom. Right there. Excuse me, getting off again. Okay. So, notice the EP. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Here's your 2, 4. Here's your 1, 3, 5. Doesn't have to be perfect. There can be crap in between. No big deal. Okay, now, something else. Andrew said at a seminar, he said, you draw whenever you have a 0, 4 line. Here's your 0, 4 line with an EP as the P4. It can be number 6 or 8 or 12, but as we call it the 0, 4 line here, okay? Then you always, absolutely always, draw your Babson profit ladder. What I have found is sometimes you get the ultimate reversal. And what that is when prices go onto the R1 line, which is this line here, and then reverse. Here, obviously, they didn't. Andrew's theory was that they typically will stop at one of the rungs on the ladder. That may be true. However, I have found that if you go into a correction pattern and they stop at R1 with that 0.4 EP, in some cases they will stop at the center line with that 0.4 EP. Remember, it can be a pivot number 6, 8, 12, who gives a hoot? Okay, because look at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I mean 7, 8, yeah, who knows, this might be pivot 10. Still, it's the EP, I call it a 0.4 line. Prices often will just simply go down to the 0.4 and reverse and go like crazy, or go down to the R1, reverse and go like crazy. This is not a good example of it, of course, but these are things to keep in mind. If you remember, there was a video called JR1. Absolutely wonderful. Excuse me, got a cough again. So there I gave great examples of this. So do keep that in mind. But in the meantime, so using the Babson reversal thing, I want you to practice with it. Practice, remember, stocks use weekly only. Futures use daily and weekly combined. Okay. And when you have weekly in futures, then you often get a multi-month reversal. So that's what I want to give to you, and this is really, really cool. Remember, you need to develop your own entry in this, okay? And personally, what I use is some kind of a pullback, and sometimes that doesn't work out. And like, for example, you didn't have much of a pullback if you look at the July hog contract, beautiful. I think I gave an example of this in the thing. Beautiful example of a nice reversal. But it didn't come back down. Oh, got a cough. Okay. So, you got to keep that in mind. Sometimes you get what I call the V bottom or V top. Normally you'll get a test of the high or low. So whatever low you make in this thing, with this thing here, or in this case, whatever high you make, you will often get a pullback, which will typically be a bit over 50% or maybe a little more. Okay, but it won't go above here, or if it does, it's just a tick. Okay, so that is the Babson reversal point, or Andrew's reversal, whatever you want to call it. But this is incredibly powerful. And this in futures will, in the last year, you probably had a good 15 to 20 examples. Okay, who knows how many examples you had in stocks. But before you ever use it, practice, practice, practice. And because it takes a while to get this, okay, to get in the habit of this. Now, one of the things I do is in the pro course, I use some of this and then add a few more things to it so that it's a little more cookie cutter and shows you what the kind of stuff that is that I use. Okay, but this is an important thing that I normally, well, I'll probably put it in the pro course somewhere, but you should have it because it's already part of the expanded course now. So I thank you for your time and see you next time.